The phone rang at
Please, you're scaring
3:17
me.
in the morning. Sloane knew before she answered. Some calls you feel in your bones. Her sister Meredith was in a coma, 7 months pregnant. The doctor said she fell down the stairs, but Sloane found the truth hidden in a cracked phone
I
screen,
won't let anything
an
happen to
unsent
you.
message that changed everything.
I promise.
He's going to kill me. The husband everyone admired. The CEO everyone trusted. The monster no one suspected. For 6 years, Sloane had stayed away. For 6 years, she had let her sister suffer alone. Not anymore. What happens when a woman with nothing to lose goes to war against a man who owns everything? Grant Ashford had money, power, friends in every high place. He had made women disappear before, destroyed careers with a single phone call, even killed to protect his secrets. But he had never faced someone like Sloane, a forensic investigator who finds what powerful men try to hide, a sister who made a promise she refused to break. This is not just a story about revenge. This is a story about the moment a woman stops being afraid, the moment she fights back, the moment she turns a monster's life into a living hell. Stay with me until the end, because justice has never tasted this sweet. Value statement and story meaning. The lesson. Sometimes the people who hurt us count on our silence. They build empires on our fears. But the moment we speak up, the moment we stand together, their power crumbles. The meaning of this story. This story is for every woman who has ever felt trapped, every sister who wished she had done more, every survivor who thought no one would believe her. You are not alone. Your voice matters, and it is never too late to fight back. The phone rang at 3:17 in the morning. Sloane Callahan knew before she answered. Some part of her had always known this call would come. She had been dreaming of her sister, Meredith at 8 years old, laughing in their grandmother's garden, chasing fireflies in the summer darkness. The phone rang again. Sloane reached for it on the nightstand. Her hand trembled. The screen glowed harsh and white in the darkness of her Seattle apartment, Hartford Memorial Hospital, Connecticut. She pressed accept. Miss Callahan? A woman's voice. Careful, professional, the kind of voice trained to deliver devastating news. This is Nurse Patricia Hayes from Hartford Memorial. Yes. Sloane's throat was dry. Her heart pounded against her ribs. I'm calling about your sister, Meredith Ashford. Sloane sat up in bed. The sheets twisted around her legs. Cold air rushed over her skin. What happened? A pause, the kind of pause that changes everything. There was an accident. Your sister fell down the stairs at her home. She's currently in the intensive care unit. Fell. The word hung in the air. Sloane didn't believe it, not for a second. How bad? She asked. She's in a coma, traumatic brain injury. She's also 7 months pregnant. The baby is stable for now, but we need you here. You're listed as her emergency contact. Sloane closed her eyes. 7 months pregnant. She hadn't known. Of course she hadn't known. She hadn't spoken to her sister in 6 years. Not since their mother's funeral. Not since Meredith chose her husband over her family. I'll be on the next flight, Sloane said. She hung up. For a long moment, she sat in the darkness. Rain streaked down her bedroom window. The city lights of Seattle blurred through the water. Somewhere out there, people were sleeping, living normal lives, unaware that Sloane's world had just shattered. She threw off the covers and began to pack. 3,000 miles away, 12 hours earlier, Meredith Ashford had been making dinner. The kitchen of the Ashford estate gleamed under recessed lighting, marble countertops, professional grade appliances, a chef's kitchen in a house where no one really cooked. Meredith stood at the stove, stirring risotto. Her back ached, her feet were swollen. 7 months of pregnancy had transformed her body into something unfamiliar. She heard the garage door open, the engine of Grant's Mercedes, the slam of a car door. Her hand tightened on the wooden spoon. Grant entered through the mudroom. His footsteps echoed on the hardwood floors. Heavy, deliberate. Meredith knew those footsteps. She had learned to read them like weather patterns. Light and quick meant he was in a good mood. Heavy and slow meant danger. Tonight they were heavy and slow. Meredith. His voice was cold, flat. The voice that made her stomach clench with fear. She turned to face him. Grant Ashford, 40 years old, CEO of Ashford Industries, 6 feet 2 inches of tailored suits and old money charm. The man she had married 8 years ago. The man who had slowly, methodically destroyed her. His eyes were bloodshot. He smelled like whiskey and expensive cologne. "How was the board meeting?" she asked. Her voice came out steady. She had learned to keep it steady. "Don't." He crossed the kitchen in 3 strides, grabbed her wrist, squeezed until the bones ground together. "Don't pretend you don't know what happened. Grant, you're hurting me." "Good." He pulled her closer. His breath was hot against her face. "I saw you, talking to Theo in the garden last week. What did you tell him?" "Nothing. We were just talking. He's your brother. He's a weak fool who can't keep his mouth shut." Grant's grip tightened. "What did you tell him about us?" "Nothing, I swear." "Grant, please, the baby." Something flickered in his eyes. For a moment, Meredith thought he might let go. She thought she might have reached whatever shred of humanity remained in him. She was wrong. The first slap caught her across the cheek. Her head snapped to the side. Stars exploded in her vision. She tasted blood where her teeth cut into her lip. "You think I'm stupid?" Grant released her wrist. She stumbled backward. "You think I don't know you've been trying to turn my family against me?" "I haven't. Grant, please listen." The second blow was a closed fist. It caught her in the temple. The world tilted. The marble counter rushed up to meet her. She caught herself on the edge. Barely. "I gave you everything." Grant's voice rose, lost its careful control. "This house, this life, everything you could ever want. And this is how you repay Shubatit?" Meredith's hand went to her stomach. The baby kicked. A flutter of movement against her palm. She had to protect her daughter. She had to get away. She ran. Through the kitchen. Into the main hallway. Toward the front door. If she could just get outside. If she could just reach the car. Grant caught her at the top of the main staircase. His hand closed around her arm. He spun her to face him. His eyes were wild. Empty of everything except rage. "Where do you think you're going?" "Grant, please, I'm sorry. Whatever I did, I'm sorry." "You're always sorry." He laughed. A cold, hollow sound. "You're pathetic. You know that? Absolutely pathetic." He pushed her. Not hard. Grant was too careful to use too much force. He knew how to hurt her just enough to leave marks that could be explained. Accidents. Clumsiness. Walking into doors. But this time, she was at the top of the stairs. This time she fell. The world became a kaleidoscope of pain. Her shoulder hit the railing. Her hip cracked against a step. She tried to curl around her stomach, tried to protect her baby, but gravity was merciless. She tumbled down, down, until she hit the marble floor at the bottom. The pain was everywhere, and nowhere. She couldn't breathe, couldn't move, could only stare up at the chandelier above her. Crystal teardrops catching the light. So beautiful, so cold. Grant's face appeared above her. His expression shifted. Rage to calculation. Calculation to concern. Like watching someone put on a mask. "Look what you made me do." His voice was calm now, almost gentle. "You should have been more careful. Pregnant women shouldn't run on stairs." Meredith tried to speak, tried to scream, But darkness was creeping in at the edges of her vision, swallowing the light, swallowing everything. The last thing she heard was Grant's voice, smooth and controlled, calling 911. "My wife fell down the stairs. Please hurry. She's pregnant." Then there was nothing. Sloane landed at Bradley International Airport at 7:45 in the morning. She hadn't slept on the flight, hadn't even tried. She had spent the 6 hours reviewing everything she knew about Grant Ashford, which wasn't much, just fragments, impressions. The cold feeling she had gotten in her gut the first time Meredith introduced them. Meredith had met Grant at a charity gala in Manhattan. She was 24, fresh out of graduate school, working at a nonprofit that helped domestic violence survivors. The irony would have been funny if it weren't so devastating. Grant was 32, already running his family's company, already worth more than Sloane could comprehend. He had swept Meredith off her feet with flowers and first-class flights and promises of a fairy tale life. Sloane had seen through him immediately. She was a forensic accountant back then, just starting out, but she had learned to read people, to see the calculations behind their smiles. Grant Ashford smiled like a man counting his assets, and he looked at Meredith like she was one of them. Sloane rented a car at the airport, a gray sedan, anonymous. She drove through the Connecticut morning, past white church steeples and stone walls, past autumn trees blazing with color. It was beautiful here, postcard perfect, the kind of place where terrible things happened behind closed doors. Hartford Memorial Hospital rose from the landscape like a concrete fortress. Sloane parked in the visitor lot, sat in the car for a moment, hands on the steering wheel. She had a photograph in her wallet, 2 little girls in matching sundresses, arms around each other, grinning at the camera. Sloane was 10, Meredith was 8. Their grandmother had taken the picture at a family reunion. Sloane took out the photograph now, traced her sister's face with her thumb, so happy, so innocent, before their father's rage, before their mother's silence, before Grant Ashford. "I'm here, Mare," Sloane whispered. "I'm here now." She put the photograph away, got out of the car, walked toward the hospital entrance. The automatic doors slid open with a soft hiss. The smell hit her immediately, antiseptic and recycled air, the universal smell of hospitals everywhere. The woman at the reception desk directed her to the ICU, 4th floor. Sloane took the elevator up. The doors opened onto a quiet corridor. Muted colors, hushed voices, the steady beep of monitors from behind closed doors. And there, in the waiting area, sat Grant Ashford. He looked perfect. Of course he did. Designer suit, slightly rumpled, concerned furrow in his brow, the picture of a devoted husband keeping vigil over his injured wife. He stood when he saw her approaching. "You must be Sloane." His voice was warm, welcoming. "Meredith talked about you so much. She always hoped you two would reconcile." Sloane studied his face. The practiced grief, the calculated concern. His eyes didn't match his mouth. The words said sorrow. The eyes said something else entirely. Something cold, something watchful. "How is she?" Sloane asked. "The doctors say it's too early to tell. She hit her head when she fell. There's swelling in her brain." Grant's voice cracked. Perfect timing. "The baby is stable. They're monitoring her closely. Can I see her?" "Of course. I'll take you." He led her down the corridor, past nurses' stations and supply closets, past other families huddled in grief. He stopped at a door marked 412, pushed it open. The smell of the room hit Sloane first. Flowers and disinfectant. The sound came next. The rhythmic whoosh of a ventilator. The steady beep of a heart monitor. Then she saw her sister, and her heart broke. Meredith lay in the hospital bed, tubes and wires everywhere, a machine breathing for her. Her face was swollen, bruised beyond recognition, Her left eye was black and purple. Her lip was split. Her arms lay at her sides, motionless. Sloane walked slowly to the bedside. Her legs felt like they belonged to someone else. She reached out, took her sister's hand. Cold, so cold. The doctors say the swelling needs to go down before they can assess the full damage. Grant's voice came from behind her. Smooth, controlled. They're optimistic she'll wake up. It's just a matter of time. Sloane didn't turn around. Couldn't take her eyes off Meredith's face. Leave us alone, she said. Of course. Take all the time you need. His footsteps retreated. The door clicked shut. Sloane stood there for a long time, holding her sister's cold hand, listening to the machines that were keeping her alive. The ventilator pushed air into Meredith's lungs. The heart monitor tracked 2 heartbeats, Meredith's, and the baby's. She noticed Meredith's fingernails, bitten down to nothing, raw and ragged. Meredith used to have beautiful nails. She used to paint them every Sunday. Sloane remembered sitting on Meredith's bed as teenagers, watching her apply careful coats of pink polish, chatting about boys and dreams and futures. When had she stopped caring for her nails? When had she started biting them down to the quick? When had Sloane stopped paying attention? I'm so sorry, Sloane whispered. I should have fought harder. I should have made you listen. I should have dragged you away from him. The machines beeped their steady rhythm. Meredith didn't respond. Sloane spotted a plastic bag on the side table. Patient belongings. She reached for it, found Meredith's phone inside. The screen was cracked, a spiderweb of broken glass. Sloane knew her sister's password, their mother's birthday. 0317. The phone unlocked. Sloane opened the messages, scrolled through mundane exchanges, hair appointments, grocery lists, a text from someone named Charlie asking if she wanted to get lunch. Then she found it. A message to her own number, never sent. The timestamp was the night of the accident. The words blurred through Sloane's tears. Sloane, I need help. I should have listened to you. He's going to kill me. Sloane read it 3 times. Her hands shook, her breath came in ragged gasps. She looked at her sister's broken body. The bruises that went beyond any fall. The old scars she could see on Meredith's forearms. Faded but visible. Grant Ashford hadn't just hurt her sister once. He had been hurting her for years. And now, finally, he had almost killed her. Sloane put the phone back in the bag. Carefully. Evidence. She needed to preserve everything. She leaned down and pressed a kiss to her sister's forehead. I'm going to make him pay, she whispered. I promise you. He's going to pay for every bruise, every scar, every moment of fear he ever made you feel. The heart monitor beeped, steady and strong. Sloane straightened up, wiped her eyes. She had work to do. The ICU waiting room smelled like stale coffee and fear. Sloane sat in a plastic chair, watching, waiting. Grant had returned after giving her time alone with Meredith. He sat across from her now, scrolling through his phone, occasionally sighing, playing the part of the worried husband. Other families came and went, a woman with red-rimmed eyes, an elderly man clutching a rosary, a young couple holding hands so tightly their knuckles went white, all of them bound together by the terrible democracy of tragedy. A doctor entered the waiting area, white coat, tired eyes, the kind of exhaustion that came from seeing too much suffering. Mr. Ashford? Grant stood immediately. Sloane rose too. I'm Dr. Rebecca Thornton. I'm overseeing your wife's care. The doctor was in her mid-40s. Graying hair pulled back in a practical bun, her handshake was firm. Her gaze was direct. How is she? Grant asked. His voice cracked again, right on cue. The swelling in her brain is significant. We've put her in a medically induced coma to help with the healing process. The next 72 hours will be critical. And the baby? Stable for now? We're monitoring closely. At 7 months, if we need to deliver early, the survival rate is quite good. But our priority is keeping both of them stable. Grant nodded, ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair. Whatever she needs, cost is no object. Of course. Dr. Thornton's voice was carefully neutral. She turned to Sloane. And you are? Sloane Callahan, Meredith's sister. Something flickered in the doctor's eyes. Recognition, interest. I see. Could I speak with you privately for a moment? Grant stepped forward. Anything you need to say can be said in front of me. I'm her husband. Hospital policy, I'm afraid. Medical information for immediate family members. Dr. Thornton's smile was pleasant, firm. It will only take a moment. She led Sloane away from the waiting area. Down a corridor, into a small consultation room. The door closed behind them with a soft click. Please, sit down. Sloane remained standing. What is it? Dr. Thornton studied her for a long moment, making some kind of assessment. Your sister's injuries are consistent with a fall, she said finally. Down the stairs. That's what her husband reported. That's what the police recorded. But there are other injuries, older ones, healed fractures, old bruising patterns, scarring that suggests repeated trauma over an extended period. Sloane's hands clenched at her sides. You're saying he's been beating her? I'm saying the injuries are consistent with a fall. All of them. Dr. Thornton's eyes held Sloane's. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Yes. Sloane's voice was barely a whisper. I understand perfectly. Without your sister's testimony, there's nothing I can report beyond what I've documented in her medical file. The police have already closed the investigation as an accident. Of course they have. Bitterness crept into Sloane's voice. He's Grant Ashford. Old Connecticut money. Friends in all the right places. Dr. Thornton nodded slowly. I've seen this before. Men like him always seem to get away with it. Not this time. Sloane met the doctor's eyes. Not this time. A long pause stretched between them. Your sister listed you as her emergency contact, Dr. Thornton said. Not her husband. That was a deliberate choice. Sloane hadn't thought about that. But of course it was deliberate, even after 6 years of silence, even after choosing Grant over her family. Meredith had still held on to some thread of connection, some hope that her sister would come. How long has she been a patient here? Sloane asked. This is her 3rd visit in 2 years. Always falls, always accidents, always her husband bringing her in, always leaving before I could talk to her alone. 3rd visit. The words tasted like ash. I tried to ask her, once, if she was safe at home. She looked terrified. She said everything was fine. Then her husband walked in, and she went silent. Sloane closed her eyes. 3 visits. At least 3 times Meredith had been hurt badly enough to need medical attention, and each time she had covered for him, protected him, because that's what abuse victims did. They protected their abusers until the abuse killed them. Thank you for telling me this, Sloane said. There's nothing I can do officially, but I thought you should know. Dr. Thornton paused. For what it's worth, I hope she wakes up, and I hope when she does, things are different. Sloane opened her eyes. They will be. I'll make sure of it. Grant was waiting outside the consultation room. His pleasant mask slipped for just a fraction of a second when he saw Sloane emerge. Then it was back, the concerned husband, the grieving partner. Everything all right? He asked. Just medical paperwork. As her sister, I need to sign some forms. Of course. He fell into step beside her as she walked back toward Meredith's room. I'm glad you're here, Sloane. Truly, Meredith would want you here. Would she? She always talked about you. Missed you terribly. I tried to encourage her to reach out, but she said you had your own life in Seattle. Your business. Sloane stopped walking, turned to face him. Let's be clear about something, Grant. Her voice was calm, cold, the voice she used in depositions when she was about to destroy someone on the witness stand. I know what you are. I knew from the moment we met. Grant's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind his eyes, like a snake coiling. I'm not sure what you mean. My sister is lying in that room because of you. We both know it, and when she wakes up, everything is going to change. A long pause. Grant's smile didn't waver. Grief does strange things to people, he said gently. Makes them look for someone to blame. I understand. But Meredith fell. It was a terrible accident. The police investigated. There's nothing more to say. For now. Sloane turned and walked into Meredith's room. She didn't look back. The next few hours passed in a blur. Sloane sat by Meredith's bed, held her hand, talked to her about nothing and everything. The weather in Seattle, her business, the little coffee shop down the street from her apartment that made the best cinnamon rolls. She told her about the time she caught a CEO embezzling $20 million, how he had tried to bribe her, threaten her, and how she had taken him down anyway. That's what I do now, Mayor. I find the people who think they're above the rules, the ones who think money and power make them untouchable, and I prove them wrong. The ventilator whooshed. The heart monitor beeped. Grant thinks he's untouchable, but he's wrong. I'm going to find everything he's hiding, every secret, every crime, and I'm going to destroy him. Meredith's hand remained still in hers, cold and limp. A soft knock at the door interrupted her. A young woman entered, late 20s, brown hair and a messy ponytail, red-rimmed eyes. She wore scrubs with a visitor badge clipped to her chest. I'm so sorry to intrude. Her voice was hoarse, like she had been crying for hours. I'm Charlotte Reeves. Charlie, I'm Meredith's friend. Sloane, her sister. Recognition dawned on Charlie's face. Oh my God. She talked about you all the time. She missed you so much. Sloane stood, offered her chair. Please, sit with her. Charlie moved to the bedside, took Meredith's other hand. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I should have done something, she whispered. I knew something was wrong. I could feel it. But she always had an excuse. Clumsy, walked into a door. I didn't push hard enough. You couldn't have known. I should have known. Charlie's voice cracked. I'm a nurse. I see domestic violence cases every week. I know the signs. But with Meredith, she shook her head. She was so good at hiding it, and he was so charming, so perfect. Sloane pulled up another chair, sat beside her. Tell me about him. Tell me everything. Charlie looked up. Her eyes were filled with guilt and grief, and something else, something like hope. Where do I start? At the beginning. So Charlie talked. About how Grant controlled everything. Meredith's schedule, her friends, her clothes, her money. How he would show up unexpectedly at their lunches. How Meredith's phone was always tracked. She talked about the bruises she had noticed, but never mentioned. The way Meredith flinched when Grant raised his voice. The time she had shown up at Charlie's apartment at midnight, shaking, refusing to say what happened. She made me promise not to tell anyone, Charlie said. She said he would know. He always knew everything. Did she ever try to leave? Once. About 2 years ago. She stayed with me for 3 days. Then he showed up with flowers and apologies, promised it would never happen again, cried, begged, and she went back. She always went back. Charlie pulled out her phone, showed Sloane photos, Meredith at a baby shower, smiling, but Sloane saw what others didn't see, the way Meredith angled her body away from Grant, the way her hand hovered near her ribs, the way her smile stopped at her mouth. We all saw it, Charlie said quietly. We all pretended not to, because it was easier. Sloane looked at the photos for a long time. Evidence. All of it. Building blocks for the case. She was already constructing in her mind. I need your help, Sloane said. I'm going to take him down, but I can't do it alone. Charlie wiped her eyes, straightened her shoulders. Whatever you need, I'll do anything. Good, because this is going to get ugly. That night, Sloane checked into a hotel near the hospital. She stood at the window of her room, looking out at the city lights, thinking about everything she had learned, everything she had seen. Her phone rang. Her business partner, Derek. I got your message, he said without preamble. I've started pulling everything we can find on Ashford Industries, and on the surface, he's clean, pristine reputation, philanthropist, pillar of the community. But, but, there are whispers, settlements that got buried, employees who left suddenly. One of my contacts at the SEC mentioned they had questions about some of their defense contracts a few years back. Nothing came of it. Keep digging. Sloane. Derek paused. Are you sure about this? Grant Ashford has powerful friends. If we go after him and miss, he'll destroy us. Sloane thought about Meredith, the ventilator breathing for her, the unsent message on her phone. He's going to kill me. I'm not going to miss, she said. Cancel all my appointments. Move everything. I'm staying in Connecticut until this is finished. How long? As long as it takes. She hung up, sat on the edge of the bed, the weight of the day pressed down on her, but she couldn't rest. Not yet. She had work to do. The funeral had been beautiful. Their mother would have hated it. Elizabeth Callahan had been a practical woman. She would have wanted something simple, a small service, family only. Instead, Meredith had let Grant plan everything. A cathedral ceremony. Hundreds of guests, most of whom had never met Elizabeth in their lives. Sloane stood at the reception, watching the crowd, wealthy strangers murmuring condolences, picking at expensive appetizers, using her mother's death as a networking opportunity. Meredith floated through the room on Grant's arm, playing the grieving daughter, the perfect wife. She wore a black Chanel dress, pearls at her throat, her hair was professionally styled, her makeup was flawless. She looked like a stranger. Sloane caught her sister's eye across the room. Meredith's smile wavered, just for a moment. Then Grant whispered something in her ear, and the mask came back. Later. After most of the guests had left, Sloane found Grant alone in the study, pouring himself a drink from a crystal decanter. Sloane, he turned, that perfect smile. Can I get you something? The bourbon is excellent. I know what you are. The smile didn't falter, but his eyes changed, went flat, cold. I'm sorry? You think I don't see it? The way you control her, the way she flinches when you touch her, the way she's disappeared into whoever you want her to be. Grant set down the decanter, carefully, precisely. Your sister told me about your paranoia, he said. His voice was pleasant, almost sympathetic. She said you were always jealous of her, always trying to control her. That's a lie, is it? She said you never approved of any of her boyfriends, never thought anyone was good enough. She said you tried to sabotage every relationship she ever had. Sloane's hands trembled with rage. I'm not going to let you turn her against me. I'm not turning her against you. You're doing that yourself. Grant picked up his drink, took a slow sip. Meredith loves you. She wants you in her life. But if you can't accept that she's chosen me, maybe it's better if you two take some time apart. The study door opened. Meredith stood in the doorway. Her eyes moved between them, taking in the tension, the anger. What's going on? She asked. Nothing, darling. Grant's voice was warm again, loving. Your sister and I were just getting to know each other better. Sloane turned to Meredith. He's manipulating you, Mare. Can't you see it? This isn't who you are. This perfect wife act. This isn't you. Sloane, please. Meredith's voice was tired, strained. Not today. Mom just died. I know, and I'm trying to protect you. From what? From my husband who loves me? Who takes care of me? Meredith's voice rose. You don't know anything about my life. You're never here. You're always working, always too busy. That's not fair. Isn't it? Meredith stepped closer. Her eyes were bright with tears. When's the last time you visited? When's the last time you called? You send a text on my birthday. That's it. And now you show up at Mom's funeral and tell me my marriage is a lie? No. Meredith held up her hand. I'm done, Sloane. If you can't accept Grant, if you can't be happy for me, then maybe it's better if we take some time apart. The words hit like a physical blow. Sloane stared at her sister, saw the wall behind her eyes, the careful blankness that came from years of training, of learning to suppress her real feelings. Grant stood behind Meredith, one hand resting on her shoulder. Possessive, proprietary. He met Sloane's eyes over her sister's head and smiled. I think you should go, Meredith said. Sloane wanted to fight, to grab her sister, to shake her until she saw the truth. But she looked at Meredith's face and saw someone who didn't want to be saved, someone who had already chosen her prison. Fine, Sloane said, but when you need me, I'll be there. No matter what, no matter how long it takes. She walked out of the study, out of the house, out of her sister's life. She didn't look back. Now, 6 years later, Sloane sat in that same hotel room in Connecticut, remembering. She had replayed that conversation 1,000 times, wondered what she could have done differently, what she could have said to make Meredith see, but she knew the answer. Nothing. There was nothing she could have said. Meredith had been too far gone by then, too deep in Grant's web, too convinced that his version of reality was the truth. That was how abusers worked. They didn't just hurt their victims' bodies, they hurt their minds, their sense of self, their ability to trust their own perceptions, until the victim couldn't tell anymore what was real and what was manufactured. Sloane had learned a lot about domestic violence in the years since, had read books, talked to survivors, tried to understand. And the more she learned, the more she realized how impossible it was to save someone who wasn't ready to be saved. But now Meredith was in a coma. She had reached out. She had tried to send that message. That meant something had changed. Something had shifted. Maybe almost dying had finally broken through. Sloane picked up her phone, called Derek. I need everything you can find on Grant Ashford. Personal, professional, everything. I've already started pulling records. There's a lot to go through. There's also a woman named Paula Warren, former employee of Ashford Industries. Apparently there was some kind of incident. Find her. Got it. Anything else? Sloane thought about the doctor's words. 3 visits in 2 years. Always falls. Always accidents. Medical records. I need to know every hospital visit Meredith has made in the last 8 years. Can you get those? Not legally. I don't care about legally. I care about evidence. A pause. You sure about this, Sloane? Once we cross certain lines, we can't uncross them. Sloane looked at the photograph on her nightstand. 2 little girls in matching sundresses, before the world had taught them to be afraid. I'm sure. The next morning, Sloane visited Meredith again. No change. The doctor said it could be days, weeks, months. The brain was unpredictable. All they could do was wait. Sloane sat by the bed, held her sister's hand. Do you remember when we were kids? She said softly. When Dad would come home drunk and start yelling, you were so scared. You would hide under your bed with your stuffed rabbit, the one with the missing eye. The heart monitor beeped steadily. I used to sit outside your door, remember? I told you I was guarding you, that nothing bad could get past me. I was 10 years old, and I thought I could protect you from everything." Sloane wiped her eyes. "I couldn't protect you from him, though. I couldn't protect you from Dad. And I couldn't protect you from Grant. But I'm going to fix that now. I'm going to make sure he never hurts anyone ever again." She squeezed Meredith's hand. "Just hold on. Hold on for me. And for your daughter. She needs you. And I need you too." The memory came unbidden. Two sisters, 8 and 6 years old, huddled in a closet while their father raged downstairs. The sound of breaking glass. Their mother's screams. Sloane had wrapped her arms around Meredith, covered her ears, whispered stories about magical kingdoms and brave princesses who saved themselves. "It's okay. I've got you. I'll always protect you." Meredith had looked up at her with those big, trusting eyes. "Promise?" "I promise. Sisters forever. Sisters forever." They had stayed in that closet until the noise stopped, until their father passed out on the couch, until their mother came upstairs with fresh bruises and a tired smile, pretending everything was fine. Sloane had learned early that love sometimes meant staying silent, that protection sometimes meant pretending, that survival sometimes meant making yourself small. She had spent her adult life fighting that lesson, building a career around exposing the truth, holding powerful people accountable, refusing to stay silent. And now, finally, it was time to use everything she had learned. For Meredith. The file on Grant Ashford grew thicker by the day. Sloane had taken over a corner table at a coffee shop near the hospital. Papers spread everywhere, laptop open, phone constantly buzzing with updates from Derek. The picture that emerged was familiar. Too familiar. Grant Ashford was a serial predator wrapped in Armani and old money. He had perfected the art of appearing perfect. Charitable donations, community involvement, a seat on the board of 3 different nonprofits, including, horrifically, a women's shelter. But beneath the surface, the pattern was clear. 3 former assistants had left the company with unexpected severances, their departures described as mutual agreements, their NDAs ironclad. 2 ex-girlfriends from before Meredith had filed police reports for harassment. Both reports mysteriously disappeared from the records. And then there was Paula Warren. Derek found her living in a small town in Maine. She had agreed to talk. Barely. Sloane drove 3 hours to meet her at a diner off the highway. Paula was 38 now, thin, nervous. She kept looking at the door like someone might burst through at any moment. "I worked as his executive assistant for 2 years," she said. Her voice was quiet, controlled. "He was charming at first, so charming, made me feel special, important." "What happened?" Paula's hands shook around her coffee cup. "It started slowly, little touches, comments about how I looked. Then he kissed me after a late meeting. I told him I wasn't interested. He said he understood. And then the next day he acted like nothing had happened. But it didn't stop. It never stops with men like him." Paula's eyes were distant, haunted. "He wore me down. Eventually I gave in. We had an affair. 6 months, I thought he loved me. What changed? I got pregnant." Paula's voice cracked. "I thought he would leave his wife. I thought we would be together. Instead, he paid for an abortion. And when I refused, I was fired the next day." Sloane felt sick. "Did you go to the police?" "He had a recording of me, in his office, saying things I shouldn't have said." Paula wiped her eyes. "He said if I ever talked, he would destroy me. My reputation, my career, everything. So I stayed quiet, moved away, started over. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be effective." Paula met her eyes. Something fierce flickered in their depths. "I heard about his wife, what he did. If you're going after him, I want to help. I'll testify. I'll tell everyone what he is. You might not have to testify, but I need your story documented. Everything you remember. Dates, times, names. Paula nodded slowly. I can do that. For her, for all of us. Back at the hospital, Sloan found Detective Marcus Webb waiting in the hallway outside Meredith's room. He was 52 years old, gray at the temples, the kind of tired that came from decades of seeing humanity at its worst. He showed her his badge. Miss Callahan, I'm the lead detective on your sister's case. I thought the case was closed. Officially, yes. Accidental fall. But I got a call from Dr. Thornton. She had some concerns about the medical findings. Sloane's heart rate quickened. What kind of concerns? Off the record? Webb looked around, lowered his voice. Your sister's injuries don't match a simple fall. The bruising patterns, the previous fractures, something doesn't add up. So, what are you going to do about it? Webb sighed. That's the problem. Grant Ashford has powerful friends. The chief got a call from the mayor's office. The DA got a call from his country club buddy. Everyone wants this case closed. And you're just going to let them? I didn't say that. Webb met her eyes, something stubborn in his expression. I said the case is officially closed, but sometimes unofficial investigations turn up interesting information. Sloane studied him, weighing, calculating. What do you need? Evidence, something concrete, something that can't be explained away or buried. I might be able to help with that. I figured you might. Webb handed her a card. That's my personal cell. Anything you find, you call me, not the station, me. Sloane took the card, a fragile thread of hope. Why are you helping me? Webb was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. I had a sister once. Similar situation. Different man. She didn't make it. He cleared his throat. I don't want to see that happen again. Grant returned to the hospital that evening. Sloane watched from across the hallway as he entered Meredith's room. Watched him sit by the bed, take his wife's hand, whisper something she couldn't hear, but she could see his grip tighten on Meredith's fingers. Could see the smile that didn't reach his eyes. He stayed for exactly 30 minutes, then checked his watch, stood, straightened his tie, and walked out without a backward glance. Sloane followed him through the hospital corridors, into the parking garage. She kept her distance, stayed in the shadows. Watched him climb into his Mercedes and drive away. He wasn't going home. She followed him through the winding streets of Hartford, past the wealthy suburbs, into an industrial area near the river. He pulled into the parking lot of an unmarked building. Went inside. Sloane parked across the street, waited. An hour later, Grant emerged with another man. Younger, nervous looking. They shook hands. The younger man handed over a thick envelope. Grant opened it, counted what was inside, nodded. Then both men got in their cars and drove away. Sloane stayed in the parking lot for a long time, thinking. Grant Ashford wasn't just an abuser. He was hiding something bigger. And Sloane was going to find out what. That night, Sloane received a package from Derek. Financial records, internal communications, the result of some creative hacking that neither of them would ever admit to. The picture that emerged was damning. Ashford Industries had been inflating the costs of their defense contracts for years, millions of dollars siphoned through shell companies. Accounts in the Cayman Islands, Luxembourg, Switzerland. Grant Ashford was worth over $200 million. At least half of it stolen from the U.S. government. He's not just a monster, Sloane murmured. He's a criminal. She called Derek. I need to get this information to someone at the SEC, someone who can't be bought off. I might know someone, old friend from my days at the Bureau. He owes me a favor. Make the call. Sloane hung up, looked at the files spread across her hotel room. The evidence of years of fraud, years of abuse, years of destruction. Grant Ashford had built his empire on lies and violence, and Sloane was going to tear it down brick by brick. The Ashford estate sat on 50 acres of manicured grounds, stone walls, iron gates, security cameras on every corner. The main house was a Georgian mansion that had been in the family for 5 generations. It looked like something from a magazine, beautiful, cold, untouchable. Sloane had received a summons from Vivian Ashford, Grant's mother, the woman who ruled the family with an iron fist wrapped in Hermes scarves. A housekeeper led her through marble hallways lined with oil paintings of dead Ashfords, into a sitting room that probably cost more than Sloane's entire apartment. Vivian waited on a settee, white hair perfectly coiffed, pearls at her throat, tea service laid out before her. "Miss Callahan, please sit." Sloane remained standing. "What do you want?" "Straight to the point. I appreciate that." Vivian poured tea with practiced elegance. "Sugar? Milk?" "I'm not here for tea." "No, you're here because you've been asking questions, making accusations, upsetting my son." Vivian set down the teapot. Her eyes were hard as diamonds. "I'm here to tell you to stop. And if I don't, then I'll have to take measures. Our family has considerable resources, legal, political, personal." Vivian's smile didn't reach her eyes. "I would hate to see those resources directed at you." Sloane moved closer, stood over the older woman. "Your son beat his pregnant wife so badly she's in a coma. He's been abusing her for years. And you want me to stop asking questions?" Vivian's expression didn't change. "Marriages have difficulties. That's between husband and wife. My son has never raised a hand to anyone. The medical evidence says otherwise. Medical evidence can be interpreted many ways." Vivian picked up her teacup, took a delicate sip. "My son is a good man, a successful man, a pillar of this community. Your sister is fortunate to have him." Sloane felt rage building in her chest. "Fortunate? She's in a coma. A tragic accident. These things happen." Vivian set down her cup. "You're not welcome here, Miss Callahan. Not in this house. Not in this town. Not in my son's life. I suggest you return to Seattle before things become uncomfortable." For a long moment, neither woman moved. The silence stretched between them like a wire about to snap. "I'm not going anywhere," Sloane said finally. "And when this is over, your son is going to prison. Your precious family name is going to be dragged through the mud. And everyone is going to know exactly what kind of monsters you've raised." She turned and walked out. Behind her, Vivian's voice followed, cold, deadly. "You have no idea what you're dealing with." Sloane found Theodore Ashford at a bar downtown. He was drunk, slouched in a corner booth, half-empty glass of whiskey in front of him. He looked nothing like his brother. Where Grant was sharp edges and cold calculation, Theo was soft, weak, the kind of man who had spent his whole life in someone else's shadow. Sloane slid into the booth across from him. "Go away," Theo mumbled. "Whatever you want, the answer is no." "I just want to talk." "About what? My brother? My lovely sister-in-law?" He laughed bitterly. "About how I'm a coward who never says anything? Already know all that. You tried to help her once. Charlie told me." Theo went still, his eyes focused on her face. 3 years ago," Sloane continued, "you told Meredith to leave. You offered to help her get away. And Grant found out." Theo's voice dropped to a whisper. "He broke my arm, told everyone I fell off a horse. I haven't been on a horse in 15 years. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. I deserve it." Theo drained his glass. "I've watched my brother hurt people my entire life. Women, employees, anyone who got in his way. I never said anything, never did anything. You were scared. I'm still scared." He met her eyes, something desperate in his expression. He showed me pictures last week, photos of my kids at school. He didn't say anything. Didn't have to. I got the message. Sloane felt cold. Grant Ashford wasn't just an abuser. He was a sociopath, using threats against children to maintain control. I need your help, she said. I can't. I told you. He'll hurt my family. He's going to keep hurting people until someone stops him. Your sister-in-law is in a coma because no one was brave enough to speak up. Theo flinched. That's not fair. None of this is fair. But it's the truth. He was quiet for a long moment. The bar noise washed around them. Laughter and music, and the ordinary sounds of people living ordinary lives. What do you want me to do? He asked finally. Tell me about the business, the financial irregularities, the shell companies. Theo's face went pale. How do you know about that? I know a lot of things, but I need someone on the inside. Someone who can point me in the right direction. Another long pause. Theo's hands shook as he reached for his empty glass. There's a safe in his office. At the house. Behind a painting of our grandfather. His voice was barely audible. And that's where he keeps the important documents. The real records. The ones he doesn't want anyone to see. Can you get me in? Are you insane? The house has more security than Fort Knox. There has to be a way. Theo rubbed his face. There's a charity event next week. Black tie gala at the estate. Everyone will be downstairs. The study will be empty. Can you get me an invitation? I must be out of my mind. But he was nodding, already reaching for his phone. If he finds out, he'll kill me. You know that, right? He won't find out. And when this is over, you'll be free of him too. Theo looked at her. Something flickered in his eyes. Hope. Fear. A desperate need to believe. Sisters forever, he murmured. What? That's what Meredith used to say, when she talked about you. He almost smiled. She said you were the bravest person she knew, said you always kept your promises. Sloane's throat tightened. I try. Don't let her down. Please. She's the only good thing in this family. The charity event was spectacular. 500 guests, crystal chandeliers, a string quartet playing Vivaldi, the cream of Connecticut society air kissing and networking and pretending to care about whatever cause they were supposedly supporting. Sloane wore a black dress she had bought for the occasion. Simple, elegant, the kind of dress that let her fade into the background. Grant worked the room like the consummate performer he was, accepting condolences about his wife, looking appropriately devastated, playing the part of the grieving husband while his wife lay unconscious in the hospital. Sloane watched him, saw the donors handing over checks, heard the murmurs of sympathy. It made her sick. He's using her, she thought, using his wife's tragedy to fundraise for himself. But she stayed focused, waited for her moment. When the crowd gathered for the keynote speech, Sloane slipped away. The study was on the second floor. Theo had drawn her a map. Third door on the left. The painting of the grandfather was impossible to miss. She moved quickly, silently. Years of sneaking around corporate offices had taught her how to be invisible. The safe was exactly where Theo said it would be. An older model. No electronic keypad, just a combination lock. Sloane smiled. She had been cracking safes since she was 12. 5 minutes later, she was looking at the contents, documents, account numbers, photographs, and a flash drive. She took photos of everything, then pocketed the flash drive, closed the safe, replaced the painting. She was halfway to the door when it opened. Grant stood in the doorway. His eyes moved over her, the desk, the painting. Looking for something? His voice was pleasant, conversational. The bathroom? I must have taken a wrong turn. The bathroom is downstairs. He stepped into the room, closed the door behind him. You're a terrible liar, Sloan, just like your sister. Sloane's heart pounded, but she kept her voice steady. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you do. Grant moved closer, slowly, like a predator stalking prey. I've been watching you, asking questions, digging into my business, my family. Your wife is in a coma. I'm trying to understand what happened. She fell. That's what happened. A tragic accident. His smile widened. But you don't believe that, do you? No, I don't. Grant was very close now. She could smell his cologne, see the cold calculation in his eyes. Let me be very clear, he said softly. Whatever you think you know, you can't prove. Whatever evidence you think you've found, it will disappear. And if you keep pushing, you'll regret it. Is that a threat? It's a promise. He leaned in, his breath hot against her ear. Tragic accidents happen all the time, even to people who ask too many questions. He pulled it back, smiled his perfect smile. Enjoy the party. Then he was gone. Sloan stood alone in the study, heart racing, hands trembling, but the flash drive was still in her pocket, and she was still standing. It wasn't over, not by a long shot. The flash drive contained everything: financial records, communications, photographs, and most damning of all, video. Security footage from the Ashford house, time-stamped the night of Meredith's fall. Sloan watched it 3 times. Each viewing felt like swallowing glass. Grant enters through the garage, unsteady, drunk. He goes to the kitchen, finds Meredith. The audio is muffled, but the violence is clear. The slap, the punch, Meredith running, Grant pursuing. At the top of the stairs, he grabs her arm, spins her around, and pushes. She falls. He stands at the top of the stairs, watching. For 32 seconds, he just watches his wife crumpled at the bottom. Then he walks down, steps over her body, and calmly calls 911. My wife fell down the stairs. Please hurry, she's pregnant. His voice is concerned, worried. The perfect husband. Sloan paused the video, stared at Grant's face, the mask already in place, the performance already beginning. She had him, but evidence alone wasn't enough. Grant had powerful friends, expensive lawyers, an entire system designed to protect men like him. Sloan needed to build a case so airtight that no amount of money or influence could make it disappear. She started with the financial fraud. James Whitmore met her at a coffee shop in Hartford. He was 55, distinguished, gray at the temples, a board member at Ashford Industries who had been growing increasingly uncomfortable with what he was seeing. I've had suspicions for years, he said quietly. The numbers never quite added up. But Grant was always careful, always had explanations. Sloan showed him the documents from the safe. Whitmore's face went pale. My God, this is massive. $23 million, maybe more, funneled through shell companies, stolen from government contracts. If this is real, the SEC will tear the company apart. Good. Sloan leaned forward. I need your help. To make sure this doesn't get buried, to make sure the right people see it. Whitmore was quiet for a long moment, weighing the risks, the rewards, his career, his conscience. My mentor helped your sister once, he said finally. Years ago, before Grant, he always said she was special, that she deserved better than the hand life dealt her. She still does. Whitmore nodded slowly. I'll make some calls. There are people at the SEC I trust, people who can't be bought. Thank you. Oh. Don't thank me yet. This is going to get ugly before it gets better. The women came forward, one by one. Paula Warren first, then 2 others, all former employees, all victims of Grant's predatory behavior, all silenced by threats and NDAs. He made us feel like we were the crazy ones, said Linda Marsh, 34, former marketing director. Like we had imagined it, like we were overreacting. That's what abusers do, Sloan said. They make you doubt yourself. I've carried this for 5 years. Linda's voice broke. The shame, the fear, feeling like it was somehow my fault. It wasn't your fault. None of this was your fault. The 3 women agreed to testify together. There was safety in numbers, strength in solidarity. He destroyed our lives separately, Paula said. Let's return the favor together. Detective Webb continued his unofficial investigation. The more I dig, the more I find, he told Sloan one night over coffee. Complaints that were never filed, reports that disappeared, witnesses who suddenly changed their stories. Someone's been cleaning up after him for years. Multiple someones. He has people in the department, the DA's office, City Hall. Webb shook his head. The man's built himself a fortress. Every fortress has weak points. Maybe. But finding them takes time. And we might not have much time. Sloan knew what he meant. Meredith was still in a coma. Still fighting. But the doctors were growing cautious. If she didn't wake up soon, they would need to deliver the baby. And without Meredith's testimony, prosecuting Grant for the assault would be nearly impossible. We need to move faster, Sloan said. I'm doing everything I can. I know. She rubbed her eyes. Exhaustion pulled at her like weights. I feel like we're running out of time. Nina Castellano became Sloan's secret weapon. Grant's executive assistant was 35 years old. She had worked for him for 7 years. She knew everything, and she was terrified. He'll kill me if he finds out, she whispered. They met in a parking garage, away from cameras, away from eyes. He doesn't have to find out. Just give me access, information, things I can use. Nina's hands twisted together. You don't understand. He knows everything. He has eyes everywhere. I can protect you. No one can protect me from him. But she agreed. Small things at first, meeting schedules, phone records, the names of people who came and went from Grant's office. Then bigger things, access codes, account passwords, the location of backup servers. There's another flash drive, Nina said one night. He keeps it at the office, separate from the one at home. It has video, audio, everything he's ever done to protect himself. Can you get it? Nina was silent for a long moment. Her face was pale in the garage's fluorescent light. I can try. 3 days later, Nina Castellano was found dead in her apartment. The police ruled it suicide. Pills. A note that said she couldn't live with herself anymore. Sloan knew better. She stood at Nina's grave, cold rain falling, watching the mourners scatter. The family who had no idea what had happened. The co-workers who would never know the truth. Grant was there. Of course he was. Playing the concerned boss, the grieving friend, offering condolences, shedding tears. Their eyes met across the cemetery. Grant smiled. Sloan felt something harden inside her, something cold and sharp and unbreakable. Nina had died trying to help, had been murdered for her courage. And Grant stood there, smiling, like he had won, but he hadn't won, not yet. Sloan turned and walked away from the grave, away from the rain, away from Grant's hollow smile. She had work to do. Everything fell apart. The SEC investigation was halted. Someone at the agency had raised red flags, procedural issues. The evidence was tainted. The case was being reviewed. Sloan knew what that meant. Grant's friends had gotten to them. Theo stopped returning her calls. A week after the funeral, she received a text from an unknown number. A photograph of his children walking into school. No message. None was needed. James Whitmore was suddenly unavailable. His secretary said he was on vacation. Indefinitely. His office had been cleared out. Paula Warren called crying. Someone had sent her employer copies of the recordings Grant had made of her years ago, edited, damning. She had been fired on the spot. "I should have known better," she sobbed. "He always wins. He always finds a way." One by one, Sloane's allies disappeared, retreated, went silent. And then Grant came to visit. He showed up at her hotel room at 9 in the evening. Sloane opened the door to find him standing there, perfectly dressed, perfectly composed, a slight smile on his lips. "May I come in?" "No. Suit yourself." He leaned against the doorframe. "I wanted to give you a chance. One last chance to walk away." "I'm not going anywhere. That's what I thought, but I hoped maybe you'd come to your senses." He pulled out his phone, showed her the screen. "Do you know what this is?" Photographs of Sloane at the charity gala, at the coffee shop with Whitmore, at the parking garage with Nina. "You've been watching me. I watch everyone." Grant tucked the phone away. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to get on a plane tomorrow morning. You're going to fly back to Seattle, and you're never going to contact my wife again. Or what? Or things will start happening to your business, your reputation, your friends." His smile widened. "To you." Sloane stepped closer. "Are you threatening to kill me? Like you killed Nina? Nina killed herself. Everyone knows that." His eyes were flat, empty, tragic. "She was always so fragile. You're a monster. I'm a successful businessman who protects what's his." Grant straightened. "Your sister made her choice years ago. She chose me. She's mine. And nothing you do is going to change that. She's in a coma because you put her there. She fell. It was an accident. That's what the police say. That's what the doctors say. That's what everyone believes." He turned to leave, then paused. "Go home, Sloane, before something tragic happens to you too." He walked away down the corridor. Sloane stood in the doorway, trembling with rage, with fear. With something she couldn't name, she closed the door, locked it, checked the windows, moved a chair against the handle. Then she sat on the bathroom floor, back against the tub, and cried. For the first time since this began, she allowed herself to feel hopeless. 3 in the morning, the hotel room dark around her, the weight of everything pressing down like a physical force. Grant was too powerful, too connected, too careful. He had been getting away with this for decades. What made her think she could be the one to stop him? Nina was dead. Thea was terrified into silence. The SEC investigation was buried. The women who had agreed to testify were being systematically destroyed. Maybe he's right, she thought. Maybe I should just go home. She called the hospital, automatic at this point, checking on Meredith. "No change," the night nurse said gently. "But she's stable. The baby is stable. We're hopeful." Sloane hung up, stared at the ceiling. Hopeful. She thought about Meredith's unsent message. "I should have listened to you. He's going to kill me." She thought about Paula Warren, sobbing on the phone. "I should have known better." She thought about Nina Castellano. "I can try." All these women, fighting, losing, dying. Because one man believed he was untouchable. Maybe I can't beat him. Maybe he's too powerful. Maybe I'm just one person against an empire. The thought settled into her chest like a stone, and then another thought rose up. But what if I don't try? What if I walk away? What happens to Meredith then? What happens to her daughter? What happens to all the women Grant will hurt in the future? Sloane sat up, wiped her eyes. No, she didn't get to give up. That wasn't who she was. That wasn't what she had promised. She had told Meredith she would make him pay, had told Nina she would protect her, had told Paula that none of this was her fault. Those promises meant something. They had to mean something. Sloane stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city lights. "You think you've won," she said softly. But you haven't. Not yet. And I'm going to make sure you never win again. The next morning, she got a call from Nina's sister. I found something in Nina's things. She left instructions. If anything happened to her, I was supposed to send this to you. A package arrived by courier that afternoon. Inside was a flash drive and a note, written in Nina's careful handwriting. I knew he would find out eventually. I knew what would happen, but I wanted to do something right before I died. This is everything. Use it. Make him pay, for all of us. Sloane plugged in the flash drive and found exactly what she needed. The flash drive contained Nina's insurance policy, recordings of Grant, phone calls, in-person conversations, years' worth of evidence she had secretly collected, waiting for the day she might need it. Sloane listened to all of it, took notes, built connections. Grant, discussing how to make harassment complaints disappear. Grant, arranging payments to a city councilman. Grant, laughing about how easy it was to control people with fear. And most damning of all, Grant, the night before Meredith's fall. She's been talking to my brother, asking questions about the finances. If she doesn't stop, I'll have to do something about it. A pause. Another voice. Male. Unfamiliar. What kind of something? Whatever's necessary. She's my wife. She belongs to me. And I'll do whatever it takes to keep her in line. Sloane reached out to Paula Warren and the others. I know what happened. I know you're scared, but I have evidence now. Real evidence. The kind that can't be buried or explained away. Slowly, they came back. 3 women, then 4, then 6, all with stories, all with scars, all willing to stand together. We have nothing left to lose, Paula said. He's already taken everything. Might as well take something back. Detective Webb reviewed the audio recordings. This is actionable, he said, something like hope in his voice. Conspiracy, obstruction of justice, maybe even confession to premeditated assault. Can you arrest him? Not yet. But I can reopen the investigation. Present this to the DA. He paused. The new DA. The old one just resigned. Apparently there were some irregularities in his campaign funding. Sloane smiled. James Whitmore had come through after all. Quietly. From the shadows. But he had come through. The board meeting was scheduled for Thursday. James Whitmore had called an emergency session. Required attendance, no proxies. The official agenda was routine. Budget reviews, quarterly projections. The real agenda was Grant Ashford's destruction. Sloane prepared carefully. Evidence packets for every board member. The financial documents. The audio recordings. The testimony of 6 women. And the video. Always the video. The night before the board meeting, Sloane visited Meredith. She sat by the bed, held her sister's hand, talked to her like she always did. It's almost over, Mare. I found everything. All his secrets, all his lies. Tomorrow, the whole world is going to know what he really is. The heart monitor beeped steadily. The ventilator whooshed. You were so brave, keeping that phone, trying to send that message, even when you were scared, even when he had convinced you there was no way out. Sloane squeezed Meredith's fingers. You saved yourself, even when you couldn't send it. Just trying was enough. She felt something. A twitch a tiny movement against her palm. Sloane looked down at their joined hands. Meredith's fingers moved again, curling weakly around hers. Mare? She looked at her sister's face. Meredith's eyes were open. Dr. Thornton rushed in within minutes. Tests, assessments, the flutter of urgent activity, nurses and monitors and careful examinations. Sloane stood in the corner, watching, praying. She's showing signs of responsiveness, Dr. Thornton said finally. It's early. We need to be cautious. But this is very promising. Meredith couldn't speak. The ventilator was still doing most of the work. But her eyes tracked movement, focused on faces, focused on Sloane. Hey, Mare. Sloane moved to the bedside, took her sister's hand again. I'm here. I'm right here. Meredith's lips moved. No sound came out. But Sloane could read them anyway. Sisters forever. The board meeting convened at 9 in the morning. 12 members seated around a mahogany table in the Ashford Industries headquarters. Grant at the head, confident, in control, unaware of what was coming. Before we begin the regular agenda, James Whitmore said, there's a matter that requires immediate attention. The doors opened. Sloane walked in. Behind her came Detective Webb, 2 officers, and the 6 women who had agreed to testify. Grant's face changed, just for a moment, a flicker of something beneath the mask. Then the pleasant smile returned. What is this? This is a private meeting. Not anymore. Sloane set the evidence packets on the table, one in front of each board member. These documents detail 10 years of financial fraud perpetrated by Grant Ashford, $23 million stolen from government contracts and funneled through shell companies. Murmurs around the table, the sound of pages turning. There's also evidence of criminal conspiracy, obstruction of justice, witness tampering, harassment, and assault of multiple employees. Sloane met Grant's eyes. And attempted murder. This is ridiculous. Grant's voice was still smooth, but something tightened around his eyes. Sloane is my sister-in-law. She's been trying to destroy my family for years. This is all fabricated, lies and manipulation. Then you won't mind watching this? Sloane nodded to Detective Webb. He connected a laptop to the conference room's display. The video began to play. The kitchen, Grant entering, Meredith backing away. The slap, the punch, the pursuit, the fall. 32 seconds of Grant watching his wife at the bottom of the stairs. Then his calm, measured voice calling for help. The room was silent. Board members stared at the screen in horror. Some looked away. Others couldn't tear their eyes from the image. Grant's mask finally cracked. That video is doctored. It's been manipulated. This is entrapment. The video was recovered from your own security system. Detective Webb stepped forward. Along with years of recordings that show a pattern of abuse and criminal activity. Grant Ashford. Webb's voice was formal now, official. You're under arrest for attempted murder, fraud, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. The officers moved forward. This is a mistake. Grant backed away. I'm Grant Ashford. Do you know who my friends are? I'll have your badge. I'll have all your badges. You're welcome to try. Webb gestured to the officers. Cuff him. The handcuffs clicked shut. Grant was led through the room, past the board members who wouldn't meet his eyes, past the women he had terrorized for years, past Sloane, who stood still as stone. He stopped in front of her, leaned close. This isn't over, he hissed. You have no idea what you've done. I kept my promise, Sloane said quietly. That's all that matters. Then he was gone. The news broke within hours. CEO arrested for attempted murder and fraud. Ashford Industries, stock plummets. 6 women come forward with abuse allegations. The media swarmed, cameras outside the courthouse, reporters stalking anyone connected to the case. The story was too big, too salacious, too perfect. Grant Ashford, the golden boy of Connecticut society, revealed as a monster. Sloane avoided the cameras. She had no interest in being part of the spectacle. Her focus was on Meredith. 3 days after the arrest, Meredith was awake and talking. The ventilator was gone. Her voice was weak, rough from weeks of disuse, but she could speak, could understand, could finally tell her story. Detective Webb took her statement gently, patiently, giving her all the time she needed. He was charming at first, Meredith said. Her eyes were distant, remembering, so charming. He made me feel like the most special person in the world. By the time I realized what he really was, I was trapped. When did the abuse start? Gradually. So gradually I didn't even notice at first. A criticism here, an insult there, isolation from my family, my friends. She glanced at Sloane. My sister. Did you ever try to leave? Once. He found me within a day, brought me back, promised it would never happen again. Meredith's voice hardened. It happened again? It always happened again. Can you tell us about the night of the incident? Meredith closed her eyes, drew a deep breath. He came home angry, accused me of talking to his brother about the business, about his secrets. Her hand went to her stomach. The baby kicked against her palm. He hit me. I ran. He caught me at the stairs. Did he push you? Yes. The word was barely a whisper. He put his hands on my shoulders, looked me in the eyes, and pushed, and then I fell. Thank you, Mrs. Ashford. That's enough for now. The trial began 4 months later. By then, Meredith had given birth, a healthy baby girl, 7 pounds 2 ounces, born 3 weeks early, but strong. Perfect. She named her Hope. Hope Callahan. No Ashford. Never Ashford. The trial was a sensation. Every seat in the courtroom filled, reporters camped outside, the nation watching. Grant pled not guilty. Of course he did. His lawyers argued entrapment, doctored evidence, a family vendetta. But the evidence was overwhelming. The video, the financial records, the testimony of 8 women now. 2 more had come forward once they saw the others find their courage. Meredith testified on day 12. She walked into the courtroom in a simple black dress, no makeup, no jewelry. She looked directly at Grant as she took the stand. He stared back, that cold smile still on his face, but something had changed in his eyes, something hollow, defeated. Meredith told her story, all of it. 8 years of abuse, the escalation, the isolation, the fear that had become her constant companion. I believed him when he said, "No one would believe me," she said. Her voice was steady now, strong. I believed him when he said I deserved what happened. I believed him when he said I had nowhere to go. What changed? The prosecutor asked. Meredith looked at Sloane, sitting in the front row. My sister came back, and she reminded me that I wasn't alone, that I never had to be alone. Grant's lawyer tried to discredit her, suggested she was lying, confused, manipulated by her sister. Meredith didn't waver. I know what I experienced. I know what he did to me. I have the scars to prove it. Her eyes met Grant's one final time, and I'm not afraid of him anymore. The verdict came on day 18. Guilty on all counts. Attempted murder in the first degree, 15 counts of fraud, conspiracy, obstruction of justice, multiple counts of assault and harassment. Sentencing would come later. But the charges carried a maximum of 40 years. Grant was led from the courtroom in handcuffs. No smile this time. No mask. Just the blank face of a man watching his empire crumble. Sloane watched him go. Then she turned to her sister, wrapped her arms around her. "It's over," she whispered. "It's finally over." Meredith held her tight, trembling, crying. But for the first time in 8 years, the tears were relief. 6 months later, Grant Ashford was sentenced to 40 years in federal prison. No parole. At the sentencing hearing, 7 of the women he had abused delivered impact statements, one by one, standing in front of him, looking him in the eyes as they described what he had taken from them. Meredith went last. "You told me I was nothing without you, that no one would ever believe me, that I should be grateful you chose me." Her voice rang clear through the silent courtroom. "You were wrong, about all of it. I am not nothing. I am strong. I am brave. I survived you. And now I'm going to live the rest of my life free, while you rot in a cell." Grant said nothing, just stared at the table in front of him. The judge pronounced the sentence. 40 years. The maximum allowed. Justice. Finally. Imperfectly. Incompletely. But justice nonetheless. Vivian Ashford disappeared to Europe shortly after the verdict. Some said she was living in a villa in the south of France. Others said she had retreated to Switzerland. Either way, she never returned to Connecticut. The Ashford estate was sold. The money distributed to Grant's victims through a civil settlement. Not nearly enough, but something. Theodore Ashford went to therapy. He sent Meredith a card after the trial. "I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough. I'm trying to be now, dumb." Meredith read it twice, then tucked it away in a drawer. Forgiveness would take time, but maybe, eventually, it would come. Meredith and Hope moved to Seattle. Sloan found them a house with a big yard, 2 bedrooms, room to grow, close enough to her apartment that she could visit every day. Charlie came too, found a nursing job at a hospital nearby. The 3 women became their own kind of family. "It's not what I imagined," Meredith said one evening. They were sitting on her porch, watching the sunset, Hope sleeping in a carrier between them. "When I dreamed about my future, this wasn't it. Single mother, starting over at 33, still flinching at loud noises." "What did you imagine?" "I don't even remember anymore." Meredith smiled, sad but real. "Maybe that's okay. Maybe the life I imagined was never the right one anyway." "It wasn't, but this one is." Meredith looked at her sister. "How do you know?" "Because you're free. Because you're safe. Because you have a daughter who's going to grow up knowing what real love looks like." Sloan reached over, squeezed her hand. "Because you have me, and I'm not going anywhere. Not ever again." Hope was 9 months old when she took her first steps. Sloan was there. Of course she was. She was always there. Now, the baby tottered across the living room, chubby legs, unsteady, arms outstretched for balance. Meredith knelt at one end, Sloan at the other. "Come on, Hope. You can do it." The baby grinned, showing 4 tiny teeth, took another wobbling step, then another, and fell right into Sloane's arms. She did it. Meredith was crying, happy tears this time. Her first steps. "She's going to be trouble," Sloane said, holding the squirming baby, feeling her heart overflow with love. "Good." Meredith crossed the room, scooped Hope into her own arms. "I want her to be trouble. I want her to fight back. I want her to never, ever be quiet when someone hurts her. She won't be, not with us teaching her." A Sunday afternoon, the 3 of them on the porch, Hope was playing with blocks, building towers and knocking them down, giggling every time they crashed. "I used to think strength meant not needing anyone," Meredith said quietly. "Being independent, not asking for help. But that's not strength. That's just being alone. What's strength then?" Meredith was quiet for a long moment, watching her daughter play. Letting people in, trusting again, even when it's terrifying, even when you've been hurt before. She looked at Sloane, choosing connection over safety, believing that love is worth the risk. Sloane thought about everything they had been through, the years of estrangement, the abuse, the coma, the fight. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "Those 6 years we lost? Every day?" Meredith's voice caught. "But I can't change the past. I can only build a better future. For Hope, for me." She smiled. "For us? Sisters forever? Sisters forever." That night, Sloane dreamed of their childhood. 2 girls hiding in a closet, the older one covering the younger one's ears, whispering stories about brave princesses who saved themselves. But in the dream, the story ended differently. The princess didn't wait for someone to rescue her. She rescued herself, with help from her sister, with courage she didn't know she had, with love that was stronger than fear. And they lived, not happily ever after. That was a fairy tale. But they lived, together, imperfect but whole, sisters forever. Sloane woke to sunlight streaming through her window. For a moment, she lay still, listening to the birds outside, feeling the peace that had finally, after all these years, settled into her bones. Then her phone buzzed. A text from Meredith. "Coming over for brunch? Hope is demanding her aunt?" Sloane smiled. She got up, got dressed, drove through the Seattle morning to her sister's house. Meredith opened the door, Hope in her arms. The baby reached for Sloane immediately. Chubby fingers, grasping. "Someone missed you!" Sloane took the baby, held her close, felt the solid warmth of this tiny life she had helped save. "I missed her too." They went inside. Meredith had made pancakes. The kitchen smelled like butter and maple syrup. Sunlight fell through the windows. The same kind of light that had fallen through their childhood bedroom a lifetime ago. "I was thinking," Meredith said, setting plates on the table, "we should start a tradition, Sunday brunch, every week, no matter what. I like that. Hope will grow up knowing her aunt, really knowing her, not just holidays and birthdays. Real life." Sloane looked at her sister, at the woman she had become. Stronger than she ever realized, braver than she ever knew. "I'm proud of you," she said. "I don't think I've ever told you that, but I am so proud of who you are." Meredith's eyes glistened. "I couldn't have done any of this without you." "You could have. You were already doing it. That message you tried to send, that was you saving yourself. I just helped finish what you started." They stood there for a moment, two sisters, a baby between them, the past behind them, the future stretching out ahead. "I love you, Sloane." "I love you too, Mare." Hope grabbed a fistful of each of their hair, pulled them close together, laughing. And Sloane realized something. This was what healing looked like. Not the absence of pain, but the presence of connection, of love, of people who showed up, again and again, no matter what. She had made a promise to her sister 24 years ago, in a closet. While their father raged below, "I'll always protect you." It had taken a long time. There had been years of distance, years of silence, years of pain, but she had kept that promise, and she would keep it for the rest of their lives. If this story speaks to you, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had to fight for someone you love? Have you ever found strength you didn't know you had? Share your story with our community. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if you want more stories like this, stories about courage, justice, and the power of standing up for what's right, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We post new stories every week, each one crafted to move your heart and remind you of your own strength. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Now let us begin. Closing disclaimer. This content has been carefully researched, developed, and manually edited by our team to deliver meaningful stories with valuable life lessons. Every narrative is crafted with intention, designed not just to entertain, but to inspire reflection, empathy, and hope. Thank you for trusting us with your time.